This is Larry Casso. I'd like to welcome you again to my studio. This is a study that I'm doing in preparation for a sketching trip that'll be coming up in about a week, and it's going to be over in Lafayette at the home of some very dear friends, the Castillos, where we've been before and had a wonderful time. And then a short distance away, we're going to travel up to a little town called Grand Casso. It's a very old town in Louisiana. Has a lot of history there, particularly Catholic Church history. There's a Jesuit college there. I believe there was a boarding school for girls that's also there, and or close by. So it's a town that, comparing it to Jackson, Louisiana, where we had started another sketching trip that wound up to be a wonderful art exhibit a couple of years in a row, and we eventually put it into a book, was Jackson, Louisiana. The only difference in Jackson, Louisiana, comparing it to Jackson, is the fact that in Jackson, Louisiana, every old building in the town, to the credit of the wonderful people there, have been renovated. In Grand Casso, many things are left intact. For instance, over to the left is an old barn. And the main block, which is only one block, I think there's 1,100 people in Grand Casso. There's a lot of wonderful gift shops, and all in unique buildings that have been renovated but are still pretty antique, and have retained a lot of their charm and this type of thing. And almost all of these buildings, in the backyard, before going to the next street, there's a barn or some type of an outbuilding. There's a smokehouse. There's a number of things. And so what we've got today, and this is a continuation of our last sketch trip at the school, where we did something from St. Martinville at the Acadian Museum, Evangeline there, and we called it All About Seeing. This is a continuation of our All About Seeing series, and it's to place another strong emphasis on the fact that more important than seeing, more important than being able to draw correctly, paint correctly, master mediums, anything that you might attempt in art, nothing will take the place of seeing. And by that, I mean to stress the fact that painting is not about technical ability. Painting is about seeing. Painting is about decision making. Painting is about looking at something that everyone else might walk by and never pay attention to it, especially these older buildings. They think they should all be torn down. To an artist, they represent so many things that I won't get into, because that's not what the lesson is all about. But I would stress the fact that it's looking for that unique thing that really touches you, that has design to it, it has interest to it. More than importantly, it has a passion to it. And generally, it's a simplification of the information that you see, and likewise an elimination of so much of the information that you really don't need. So, having said that, I've chosen this particular building here that you can see in this picture. Now, this is not a building that, looking at it at this angle, you could particularly get excited about. Now, one of the problems we've got is there's not a lot of information here. There's not a lot of information there. It kind of frames it in. Way too much trees. Way up at the top. Too many trees in the front of it, and almost too many trees back here and over here. And I realized that when I took the picture, but it intrigued me because in just a moment I'm going to show you a picture on the other side, on another page I should say, that is going to give you another angle of this building and another painting, and it's something that's going to be, I think, quite exciting to do at another time. So after looking at this, remember, for every subject you look at, there's probably 100 ways that it could be painted. And of the 100 ways or more that it could be painted, you want to find the way to paint it that really excites you. Okay? And so as I looked at this, I studied it, I thought about it. The nice thing about our digital cameras, we can take our pictures, go back home. The next evening, that evening, we can pull out the computer, look at the pictures, and while it's all fresh, we can make decisions. So I looked at a variety of things that I could do with this, but then I narrowed it down to just this area right here. Okay? And I felt this window and the shadow and the foliage down here was really enough. I thought maybe even including a little bit of this up here, but did not follow through with it, and this is what I decided to use. And we'll just flip over right here to this page. Okay, and let's raise that camera just a little bit. Now this is the same picture. That's another very important part of painting something like this. This is the same photograph, or building rather, walking down the street behind where this was. In other words, I was coming at it from the side, and I have a picture elsewhere of the entire building itself. But in this particular picture, what excited me was the shadows coming down, and here we see the two dormers, and of course some work would have to be done in some of these areas here. But anyhow, enough that it really did excite me. But what really made me decide to paint this particular picture to the left, after putting it in my computer, we went into this in a lot of detail in our first lesson, and these will be available in books and in and videotapes as I do the whole series. And it's going to be all about seeing. It's going to be about making decisions. It's going to be about looking at that thing that that you can do if you'd like to do it, that you're passionate about. And that's the paintings that you're going to find will come out the best. And I'll tell you, I'm so convinced about simplicity. I think the biggest thing that discourages people, I have a saying, it's a quote from John Wesley, who was not only a great methodical person, he also was co-founder with his brother of the Methodist Church. And one of his sayings was, between the little things we don't do and the great things we can't do, there's a good chance we won't do anything. Eating lunch at a Chinese restaurant today, I got my fortune cookie, and I really love to find those things because I'm amazed so many times how you can use the information. And the saying on the cookie was, 2 small steps are sometimes better than 1 big leap. And I think it's pretty much the same thing as what Mr. Wesley said. And that is the fact that all of us get excited, our brain gets before our hand and our emotions, and we want to jump in and we want to just do something great. When we forget, life is all about baby steps. Life is all about starting somewhere, doing it simply, and then moving from one step to the next step, just like the first time we ever started to walk. So, having said that, I've chosen this particular scene right here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick preliminary study. Now, the reason I'm going to do the preliminary study, this is the predominant light, or I should say on the foliage here, is the predominant light now. This is the is very attractive and it's very interesting and I happen to love it. These are our middle tones. Now, what I'd like to do is somewhere or another transform this right here to become the center of interest, which will involve perhaps changing the sun a little bit, altering the course of nature, possibly. That's okay. But I'd like it to where this is slightly lighter. So I want to revise the pencil study, and I'm going to share that with you with just a real quick study, and then we'll go from there. So let's put it on pause here for a moment, and I'll get everything ready. Okay, as we continue, what I'd like to do is set this up in a way where we can look at the photograph, and I'll let you go through the sketch with me to the right here. This is going to be a relatively small sketch, not a lot of time involved in it. Now, the first thing I want to do is we're going to start right here, and I think we're in the center of the page. Very good. Now, this is an ebony pencil that I'm using on a piece of Xerox paper called Expressions. It's a special printing series. It has a very slick surface to it, and however, what I like about it more than anything else is the fact that you can take an eraser, and no matter how dark you put it on there, it can just about, it's hard to find it, and if any of you are interested in some, I'll be glad to give you a couple of sheets to try. Now, I know you can barely see this on here, but let me stress to you, that's what you want to do when you're doing a sketch, okay? We want things to be erasable very quickly and very easily. Now, here we have our window in there. Now, I think I'm going to, and here's a good example, I think I'm going to drop this down a little bit, because really I just want more of a what I call a diagram sketch. And let's see, I still want to come in a little bit more here. And this is, now I want you to notice as I draw this, you're probably thinking, oh, look how nice we can barely see it, but he draws the line straight. Well, what you do, notice I don't just take this and do a line. See how carefully I'm watching the side of the paper right here as I go down. You see how I do it in a sharp, jerky motion. And then whatever that eraser won't pick up, this one generally will. Okay, which is just a pink pearl and a neat eraser. Okay, now, inside of this, we're going to put our facial board. We're going to indicate that. Now, remember, I'm doing this for expediency. I want it to be done very quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do in my continuing series, by the way, of putting my darks in first, I'm going to come in here like this. And now there's two ways you could do this. You could come in and you could do each window if you wanted to, and that may not be a bad idea. Let's try it and see what happens here if I do this. So we have two windows at the top. So we'll do this. And maybe that won't be bad. Okay, another way, I put it in, sometimes I don't mind putting it in solid black. And then I'll just take some white paint after I finish it and come back and pick it out. Okay, now we have this as our first window. And I'm just trying to get an idea of this one's going to be wide enough. Let's go a little bit wider. Looks like I've got it pretty proportionate. That's kind of a strange situation. Do that. Now let's draw the next one next to it, like this. And the next one next to that. And I think we're going to be in the ballpark. Okay, now, since I've made my decision, remember I told you this is about decision making. Okay, it's not about drawing, it's about painting. It's really not even about drawing. It's making decisions. What am I going to do? Where am I going to start? And you're going to find that there's a logic to this. And the main thing I want you to remember is anyone can really learn to do this. Okay? That's so critical because so people think that this is only for a chosen few, and it's not true. Now, I'm going to See if I can take this and still keep it on here. I'm getting a glare on my board. So let's see if I put it on here like this, you can still see it very well. But as I look at it now, I'm getting the glare. I have a pretty strong light up above. All right, now let's come over here. And rather than making this a boring window, let's go ahead and draw all of our panes in now. Okay, we're going to do this. Now see again, short, jerky strokes, always controlling it, always knowing where you're going. And then we're going to go one more like this. Okay, now I think there will be a break here, and I probably should have allowed for that and made it up a little bit higher, but that's okay. Now we're going to come back down like this because I really, on a sketch like this, I'm not trying to do the Mona Lisa. Okay, we're going to come down here and then we're going to go across here. Now, as I look closer, okay. I'm going to start like this first. Bear with me while we do this. Okay. Actually, bear with me while I find out what I'm doing. Okay, now as I go into these windows a little bit more strongly, let's go ahead and get our panes clearly established. Well, the wonderful thing about this is when you paint it, you just take a paintbrush, a 1/2-inch paintbrush or whatever you decide you want to use, and just get with it. Now that I've done this, I may decide that I want to give a little bit more interest to this window pane. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this. Make it clear, but still. And you know, you can get panes like this where you'll see some of them completely white. Now I'll leave a little bit down here. I want to leave that area out. Let's come across like this. Now I have some ideas on this. They may not work, but that's why it's fun to sketch. And that's things that even a photograph can't do for you. Okay, now, make sure my head's not in the way. I think I can even bring this in a little bit closer for you here. Okay, well, we'll stay right there, but that's going to be okay for now, until we get the basic layout in there. Now, I notice there is a slightly smaller frame around the window, naturally, where it should be, that I forgot, but this is a dark picture, and just got away from me in my excitement and enthusiasm. We're going to come down like this. Okay. All right, now we're going to have the water frame that's going to come across like this. And it's going to go down just a little bit lower, like this. I'm going to bring it across here. Now, I was reading a story about an artist was a very famous Louisiana artist in his day. Could be said of a lot of artists. But this particular person painted, he was a New Orleans artist, and he painted somewhat what I'd call the swamp area, the marshy areas of Louisiana. And it's a dead giveaway when I tell you that he was really famous for his misty scenes and a lot of oak trees in them and so forth. Well, anyhow, I was reading a commentary that was quite interesting and about this gentleman. in this book. And the bottom line was that, okay, this actually should have come like this, okay. The bottom line was the fact that whoever wrote the article basically said that this gentleman saw a beauty in Louisiana and in that particular subject matter that no other person had ever seen. And that's why he was able to do this so well. Now this wound up coming out a little bigger than I thought it would. All right, now we're going to do corrugation. Let's go ahead. It's time to go ahead and define our edges now. So we're going to do this. And maybe leave this one for the time being. Now, I'll just put it out here and erase it if we need to. Now, coming across here with this line. Now this is corrugation. This is the tin roof that it's sitting on. Now see, what's interesting to me from here on out is you want that little light area on that roof here. Because I went over a little bit too far. We'll come back and take care of that later. Now right here there's very little edge. I'll show a little bit more because it makes it clearer. And we'll come down like this. Okay, now what's happening is we have almost a direct cast shadow. This is coming over like this, and then this is going to come, and I may give it a little bit more sway. Notice that this comes down here. I'm going to go a little bit further with it because I think it'll give us a little bit more interest. So we'll come in, move along here, move it over here, and then we'll pick it up like this. It was kind of interesting that that just sort of came at an angle like that and missed that particular part. Okay, now here we have another line. I have an erase that'll take care of that. And likewise, I'm going to lift this up, and I thought it gave it a little bit better feel. Yeah, good. That connects it, puts everything not so much in the center of the picture. Now we're going to come across like this. Okay. And we're going to drop it down. Come across here. Bring it back like this. Then we're going to have this large facial board. It's basically going to go straight across. This is angled slightly, which is fine with me. And then we're going to have this is really almost a silhouette view. It is a silhouette view actually, just doing this one little area. This is going to come down like this. And now this is very crucial. And I'm going to do other things on this later, which was really going to be kind of the purpose of the whole lesson, is to show you this. Okay. Now, see, I left inadvertently equal space on both sides of that window, and I want to move that window over to the left just a tiny bit. Now I'm going to make sure that that ends right there and it doesn't end over here in the corner where I'd create what we call a tangent. Now we're going to come down a little bit lower here. And we're going to do this. Okay. Now I'm going to just outline this, come down like this. And then sort of come on up like this again. And then we're just going to have our foliage area. Now I've got a little surprise for you, for some of you. Some of you already know how I'm going to do this later. Now on the tin roof we've got just a small area here, and it's laid on, that tin is laid on in a way that you don't really see it. Now, it happens to go straight across. So we're going to do the same thing, but we won't even pick it up in the shadow. We'll pick it up out here. And then you'll get, now here, after a certain point, you're going to find that there's going to be a perspective that's going to start taking place. Now, I'm going to only sketch it in slightly for our purposes right now. But from where we're standing, this is what's going to start happening. Now, the ironic thing about it is it starts out right here and it's completely straight. And for whatever reason, in the trajectory of either my eye or the camera itself, that's actually what it did. So these are going to be straight. Okay, now we're beginning to see that come together a little bit better. And now let's bring this in a little bit more now where we can focus more on the drawing and let you see a few things that I plan to do here that might be of assistance to you when you're sketching in the future. Okay, let's get some masking tape. Now there's a couple of ways that you can do this. But my engineering background has kept me kind of a neat freak, no matter how much I sometimes try to get away from it. I just like crispness, I like correctness. So we're going to put this on here like this. And then we're going to put another piece like this. Now what I mainly want to do almost puts a nice mat on it, huh? Okay, I want to turn this sideways. Now the first thing I want to do, I've got my darks in here, and I want to, which I'm going to alter to some degree in a moment. Let's see where we're at in the picture now. Okay, good. Now then we're going to, if you frame this in now, another facial board going across the bottom like this, and then the same facial board up here. Now that perhaps a little bit too far down, but let's just go with it anyhow. Okay, now remember, I want to alter certain things. For instance, I want this to remain either light or just slightly off-white. Now this tin roof is going to be our lightest area. So let's go ahead and, or one of our lightest areas, not actually the lightest area, but okay, now I'm going to draw this in very crisp. Now I want to just come in. Now notice how I'm doing this with a vertical motion like this. It's horizontal actually at this point. That's why I moved it like this. I want to create my middle tone. Okay, now I'll get a little piece of paper. Just do this now. I'm going to move it over here. You see, you have no idea of what this is going to look like. Now you notice I put those lines in there, and I didn't put them in just to put them in. Now let's start coming down. I'm going to follow those lines all the way down. I'm going to follow the perspective as I go up. To me, this is very critical, and that it's going to take a little bit of the boredom out of it. And I'm going to come back like this and start continuing the same way. perspective out that way. Around the borders, I'm just going to fill it in however I feel like I want to fill it in. Okay, I know this is a little bit busy, and we'll do something about that in a minute if we decide to. But before I do, I want to go ahead and include another layer of this, and there's even another one over here, but I don't want it to be. See, before I start altering things too much, I've got the pattern that I want. Now I just want to come in and put the definition. So we're going to start here, and I'm going to see when I finish this part of it whether or not I need to do anything else on it. Okay. And then at this section right here, now if I had to do that over again, I would have probably left a little white highlight. But there's always ways that you can come back and do things like that. Okay, now we're going to put this here. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a very, very quick sketch that I'm not sure whether I like or I don't like yet. But I'll let you know when I find out. Okay. Now I feel like I may have made this a little too dark, but see, again, I'm just searching. Sounds like I better find it fast, huh? Okay, now, this is going to be what's going to help you make a better decision on what should be done or not. Okay. We're going to have that roof, and we're going to put this a little bit darker. So we're going to come with our shadow under here. Now, what I have decided to do, it's ironic, this is very similar to what we did on the students' painting recently. Okay. I don't think she'll mind if I copy it. Now, see if I'm too dark. I'll just come back in and do whatever, see. But I'm going to put it, and I'm going to say it. I'm not going to be afraid of it. I think that's going to be just exactly what I want. Okay. Okay, now, so here's our shadow coming like this. And then it's going to kind of come around. And I think what we're going to do here, I think I just got my answer. We're going to cast a little shadow under here, all the way down. I want to put this climb in this. But I don't want it anywhere near as dark as it is on there. down like this. I know what I'm hitting there. Okay, now I know all right. If it sounds like I'm going solid because I don't know what I'm doing, that's exactly what's happened. Okay. So what I basically did was I just moved that shadow up a little bit. Now as I come back down here, I want to really return that dark shadow. Now there's a lot in this I'll probably want to change when I get to the big one. And that's not going to be any problem. Now you'll be doing something like this and you can't comprehend how many times you're ready to bail out. But don't. Always finish what you start. Because you never really know what's going to happen. I might just try to get some more of those vertical shapes in there like that. Put myself a little dark here. Okay, now, who says that our tin roof has to be the same value all the way down? Why not at the top, where I want the building to really stand out a little bit more? How about making this a little darker? And then we'll come back here and we'll do the same thing. Now maybe get a little more specific with a few of these lines here. I'll fade that out a little bit. And if necessary, we can allow this to catch a lot more light instead of having it quite this dark. Now remember, there's two stages in this if you're going to paint it. It may not look like exactly like you want it. Let's tone all of this down, even the reflections. See, there are too many values inside of there. A little white edge there. And I'll just make our roof a little bit darker here too, even though it's not going to be that way in the finished picture. Okay, now we got a little bit more information in here like this. Now here's where we can come back in. And if we determine I got too carried away with my differences here, remember, this is intended to be a very, very quick sketch. Not making excuses already. But that's what sketching's all about, and if you don't have the guts to jump in and just do it, you're not going to have a lot of fun sketching. Okay, I'm a lot more satisfied with that now. All right, let's go to our next. This is going to define what we just did a lot more when I come back in and I really define this dark, see? And that's a little thing I know about that you don't know about in terms of what I plan to do. So we're going to come back in like this. We're going to get us a pretty nice middle tone. I'd love to know what I'm hitting. Okay. Now, right here, we really want to get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, now we came in put a little crack in there like I see it for interest's sake. Let's get any light whatsoever out of here. Now let's come back down here and really go for broke on these darks, because these darks are what's going to save us or bury us. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and do all of this solid. Let's see here. I wanted that really dark shadow to stand out, so I'm going to come back and very quickly do this. I left my little light area out here, and I'll show you how we'll do that in the middle. Now, I'll leave my edge, make that a little darker right up under it. Okay, and I think we ought to probably come back in, and instead of following the photograph literally, which we'll have a tendency to do if we don't watch it, as we get away from it, we can come in like this and pick up some of these areas. Okay, then we're going to come straight across here like this. We're going to make that all solid black. You can't give up too soon. I'm going to show you why in a second. Not saying that I'm thinking about it, but it has crossed my mind. But I can't say whether it's going right or not going right, because I just had a plan and an idea. Excuse me, and I'm developing it. And so we'll find out. We're going to leave these larger areas in here. Okay, now we're getting closer to what we want this to do. Now, what I love, without getting too fancy, I love the fact that we have all kind of little textures in here on that roof, see? Some areas are real dark, like this. Look at that. Now see how that's starting to break it up? Come back up like this. Make sure we follow that pattern. Excuse me. Excuse me. Create a little bit more excitement in this roof, or interest I should say. Remember, as we come down here now, it's just going to be a very strong, clear middle tone. Every little thing you see me do now is going to really help it develop. Okay, let's go in for the final touch on it, and walk over and sharpen my pencil. And remember, as long as it's in the state that it's in, you have to have an idea. You have to have a picture and stick with it. Let's see what happens now when I put this in here like this and like this. I think we're getting closer to what I was hoping we'd get. If I could just blend some of that in here. Still competing a little bit with that top section, so if that's the case, let's bring our window out a little bit more. Okay, now take this out of our pencil. Put a lot of the middle tone things in here. Move this stuff out of the way for a moment. Okay, as we look at finalizing this, let's bring our picture here again, and let me just show you something I like to do, and I actually planned to do this originally. I found in pencils, I'm going to just kind of use a little bit of this and bring it on up a little further to connect it. I found in pencil sketching, it's very difficult to come in and leave white, and capture the foliage type effect you want to capture, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to take my brush, some white gouache. Gouache is opaque watercolor, if you have never heard the term before. And we're going to just start pulling out a few highlights. I will use a little bit of the area down here and here where we left the white. I want to leave that little break in between. But I'll make the real thrust of this to be the light foliage swooping across there like that. Now, in the process, you might have to come back in and enhance your darks a little bit. Well, I found out where that line was coming through a little while ago. So then we can utilize the pencil both to create a little foliage as well as we'll come back over some of the white pigment. I see here I might want a little bit of that foliage to come up. I had that piece of paper slid under there. And that's why, and then carry my lights up here like this, you see, and that gives me a little background. Okay, I'm satisfied. That's what we want there. Now let's come on back up here. I'm pretty sure I'm finished what I want to do in these other areas. Well, I was a little surprised with that, but yet maybe I wasn't. This paper came up. It's pretty strong masking tape. Now it's going to give it a completely different ambiance with the paper in front of it. Now, I'm going to come back in and a lot of these areas, now if you want gray areas, inside of a lot of this there are patterns that show up on here, and if you want the patterns in there, just use a little bit of your white paint. Now, I don't know what they're supposed to be, and who cares? It's just like the darks. But it's just some more little areas that can break it up for us. Might not leave them, might take them out later. Now, what I was telling you a little while ago, along this roof, I would have liked to have left a light, and I would have liked to have left one over here. And so we just put one in there. Now some of this here, this will be working depending on the amount of, if I feel like I need the lights in there, this is called dry brush. If I feel like I want some of this to stand out a little bit more, it's my painting. Now this is never going to dry as white as the white is. And that little area that I wanted to be white there, just got white. And I'm going to come back and do a little bit of this and this. Kind of break that up a little bit. Got that a little too bit, but tone that down a little bit. I'm going to have to make a decision. See where I changed this. I made the roof lighter, lighter in the darker, I should say, and I made the inside part of the window lighter. But I didn't think I would need it that dark to do what I was doing. So who says you can't have a dark roof? See, and it's just that simple. The same way over here. And with all the darks across the bottom and everything, it'll take it. And I'll carry it on all the way to here. Now I think our window's starting to become a little bit more predominant. Now see again, doesn't mean it has to be white and be competing, see. Just means it can be lighter. And you can follow a totally different arrangement than when you started originally. Now, this is going to look a lot better when we paint it. So I think that'll be sufficient for what we want right now. Now, when I spray this and whatever, it's going to look a little bit sharper, but I'm satisfied with it like it is. And we'll just hit it like that, and that'll be sufficient. Now the painting is going to be a lot simpler in a way. So let's just go ahead and leave that for now, and we'll call that one finished. Now in closing this part out, I wanted to show you the finished sketch with with it sprayed and so forth. What the spraying does is it really does take a lot of the unevenness out of the blacks on something like that. And in this case, it really brings it out very nicely. And now, what I'd like to show you in terms of the original thing that attracted me to this. Now, I'm very satisfied with the textures in my roof. I knew from the beginning that roof was going to be a little bit boring. I'm not sure about the total correctness of this, but I think I can get by with it. Moving it over like this. And now, notice my brightest part's going to be here and here. But I can leave this a lot lighter against the dark background. So, and I'll take that in consideration when I paint it. So I'm satisfied with the sketch, and I want you to notice the primary thing I wanted to do was to convey the shape of the dormer. I like the angle of the shadow. The perspective, the way it came down is quite interesting, but especially I like the way your eye comes in like this and just sort of goes through the whole picture. And so it just created a really, really interesting thing to observe. So we're going to just put this sketch on a piece of paper now, and we're going to go ahead and put it on some watercolor paper, and we'll do us a quick little watercolor of it in just a moment. We'll go ahead and close for now. Okay, as we begin the next portion of this little study here, I've got a black and white preliminary study on the camera now that we just watched, and those of you that are watching the entire thing. Now we want to convert this into a watercolor. Now I'm only using 5 colors. I used the Hooker's green. I'm not using watercolor. I'm using gouache, which is a watercolor, but it's an opaque watercolor. I'm using Hooker's green, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red. These are the 5 colors I call my sketching colors. I'm going to be doing most of this like my last painting with a 1/2-inch brush. And so but however, I use whatever brush I feel like using, or I feel like I need to use. And so we'll continue, and I'm going to pretty much approach this the same way, except I think I'll put the dark windows in first, and then I'll do the background. Now here's the beauty of a sketch. I could probably go ahead and put I might go ahead and put a light wash on the dormer part up in here. See, but you have all the decisions. In other words, I know what I want the end result to be now. Okay, it's like landing a man on the moon. It really is. You make all your preparations, you do all of your, and I've been involved in that too, okay? And of course, this is an extreme example, but you plan it, you plot it, you get everything as close as you can, ignite the rocket and hope that it makes it. Likewise, when you do a painting, it's almost like doing the same thing, except of course it's not rocket science. But it can be very frustrating at times as well as a lot of fun. So I think I will go ahead and block in my darks. I'll put a light color over this first, then my darks, then I'll put the background in. And then I'll develop this area spontaneously just like I did the last time. So let's remove this here. And I have three additional colors. They're not actually colors. They're black and white is not a color. They're not colors, but alizarin crimson is. Now I use alizarin with my 5-color mixture because it's very difficult to mix anything that even remotely resembles alizarin. So it gives you a certain effect, particularly as you mix it with your blues. Now, the reason I'm using the gouache, for those of you that are not familiar with, gouache is an opaque watercolor. And I'm actually coming in and I'm going to do this very opaquely later as I come back and I build things up, and it's just designed to cover. So let's go ahead and start the process without further ado. Okay, now let's go directly to our alizarin and ultramarine blue. Now it's already automatically going to give you a really pretty purple looking color. Sometimes it's a little too bright, so I'll add a little brown to it. A little bit of our burnt sienna that warms it up quite a bit. And let's just play with this now until we get what we think we need. And sometimes you've got to kind of play back and forth with it. But this is not going to be something that's that elaborate. So the first thing I would like to do, I'd like to start at this base area like this. Kind of establish a value. Come across like this. Now, I want to very quickly come back while this is wet. And gouache lends itself a little bit better even than watercolor to being able to do this type of thing. Now, the reason I started down here instead of at the top is that I want to start the way you saw me start, and then I want to come back like this, and I want to start dragging the color up. Now notice how much liberty it gives me to come back and do this, which I really do like with the gouache. Now, having said that, what I'm really doing as I drag this up now, I'm actually dragging it up, and I'm using less and less pigment. And we'll just come right on up and allow the lighter area to show through a lot more. And you'll see when it dries that you should be seeing a very nice gradation. I see this is wet enough that I can come back now if I don't screw it up. Okay, I think that's very sufficient. Okay, now notice you can see on the screen already the darker area getting lighter. Now that's really the effect that I was hoping to get in the black and white a lot sooner than I did. But that's the breaks, and that's why you do pencil studies. Okay, now we'll leave that, and I think I'm going to go ahead and get my first layer on the tin part of it. We're going to get our burnt sienna. I'm going to put quite a bit of the cadmium red with it because burnt sienna does not have a lot of red in it. Might even go a little stronger with the red. I think this is going to be just exactly what I want right off the bat. So we're going to start by, I've got lines drawn on here. And of course this is going to be our, and I'll drag this down again. Now again, I'm anticipating that this is going to be lots lighter when it dries, and it will. Oh, we shot the mark on that a little bit, but that's okay. What white paint was made for in a gouache. We don't like to use it too much in regular watercolor. Now we'll come across like this. As you get so much more diversity with the watercolor, as you're going to see. I'm going to come back like this, and then we're going to drag this across. Now, I'm fully expecting this to dry a lot lighter, and we'll find out in just a second. But now, I think you can already see, as this is developing, that now we're going to come like this. Make sure we leave that little white area there. Now we're going to come back over here. Let's see, this I feel much more comfortable than if I would not have done the black and white, because I know this is going to dry a lot lighter. But notice the fluidness you can move with when you have the plan already worked out, so to speak, which I think I do, as much as I needed to. Now, of course, this is going to dry considerably different. Now, notice something that you get in the color that you don't get in the black and white. You have temperature. See, you can put values that are the same and different colors and have a lot of interest. If you put values in this that are the same in black and white, you're depending totally, I should say, on the values. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. Now, let's pause this for just a second. Now with the screen back on, let's mention what I just did. I used cadmium red dark, which I didn't even know I had in my palette by mistake, and it gave me a dull looking color. So all you do is you take your regular cadmium red, you wash it over it like this, and it mixes beautifully, and I have exactly what I want to have. The reddish brownish color that I'd like to have. It's just got a little bit more life and vitality to it. Okay, now let's go to the immediately to our darks now. I'm going to go to the blue and the brown. I'm going to mix a little alizarin in it. I just love to put that alizarin with that blue. And then I'm going to put a little bit of black with it. So we don't waste any time on these darks. Now notice what I'm going to do here that's going to be a little bit different is I'm not going to leave those light areas on the windows. Just going to come down like that. Let's get my hand out of your way there. To be pretty strong. You didn't think you could do all of this with a 1/2 inch brush, did you? Now that really establishes a whole different ambiance than what I had on the first picture. I want you to notice how I'm not going to have to make this part at the top quite as red as I did before, quite as dark, okay? Because look at now, as you look at it, this is what makes watercolor so easy, provided you know what you're doing. Notice how nice. Now see, this is a little dark again. You would never notice it though. But it does exactly what I wanted it to do. Okay, now, let's go back to our roof, and we'll get a little bit of the cadmium red and the brown again. I'm going to put a little blue with it now to gray it down. Okay, now, we're just going to start up here. Let's turn our paper this way a little bit where we can see this a little bit more clearly. And I'm really going to establish and confirm what I'd like to confirm on this thing now. So I'm much more confident in what I'm doing. I probably shouldn't be, but all my values are pretty well worked out. I really don't know how this is going to work. And we're going to find out in just a second. Okay, now as I come down, I'm likewise now going to do just like I did before at the top. And I started this relatively dark. Now I'm going to bring it down. I'm just going to add a lot of water to it. And I'm just going to drag it down. That area there I'm going to have to come back in and touch up. I'm going to drag it even to the point at the bottom. So I want this to become very, very light now. Which it will. I'm going to let that dry. My first tendency is to want to darken it a little bit, but I'm not. Not just yet. I'm going to come over here the same way. Now, with that extra blue in this, it's producing a totally different ambiance than it would have before. So we're just going to keep dragging this down now. Actually, just want to start doing our little deal with the stroking a little bit different way. Now some of these areas in here, I'm not going to put the blue quite as heavily. But I kind of like the addition of that blue. It takes that warm color that I had kind of strong on my black and white, it really makes it look a lot more in keeping. Now see, I'm probably going to just leave this exactly like it is. Okay, now I really want black, so I'm going to go back to the blue. I'm going to put a little bit of cadmium red where I can get it a little stronger, and I'm going to put the burnt sienna. And I'm going to add a little white. Now I want to come up here and I want to get serious. Okay, now see, I like the idea of allowing a little bit of that other stuff to come through at the bottom, where we have a little bit of the unevenness right here. My lands, it's just hard to imagine the difference when you go to the color and you have warm and cool colors to help you, as well as other things. Now this was a flew on my part here, where I left that line, so we're just going to drag it over and back both ways a little bit. No big deal. Okay, now while this is drying, I'll put it on pause. We'll go and change the water. Now, in keeping, oh, I just love it. In keeping with what I've already done on here, I got some fresh water. And I want to come in now and I want to get a little bit more of the alizarin, ultramarine blue, whatever. And I want to paint this area in and establish what I plan to do here. So we're going to come like this. And just come straight across. Now see, this is intended to follow what I did up. Could have left some of that white, but that's alright. And then we're just going to take our brush and likewise stroke that down. Bring that in a little bit here. We'll try to blend it out a little bit more. The one thing about this gouache that's rather nice is when it does start to blend or to dry, if there are any lines, it's a lot more forgiving about coming back and changing it. Now I really got this value to pick up about this value right here. You see, now I can always darken the window if I need to. Right now I don't believe I'm going to need to. Okay, now I know what the details are going to be like in here. I'm not too concerned about that. So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to my ultramarine blue. Let's get a little bit of fresh ultramarine blue out here. Well, I believe you can actually paint it faster than you can draw it, but that's really a fact. Sometimes, because you've done all the work, see, you made all the decisions. Sometimes it's hard to make a decision to do something and stick with it right in the, when right in the beginning you don't really know what it's going to look like. But you have to do it. Okay, now let's go, and I'm going to go with that ultramarine blue, that burnt sienna. This time, I'm going to use a little bit of the cadmium red light for the red, because I want something that's going to be a little duller than the blue that I used with the white. That's where I love using that other color. Okay, now this isn't going to be my final dark. I'm just going to start up here and pull it on down. I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do in just a second. Now we'll do this. So this has got a little bit too much of the again, I want that to just lighten as it comes down. It's got a little bit too much brown in it. Actually, I didn't put too much brown. It's the brown that's coming through what's already on there. But see, I know just from my experiences in doing this long enough that I'm not even looking at my photograph anymore. Strictly looking at my black and white. I want to get the first stalk on there, see. Now I'm going to let that dry. I'm fully expecting it to be somewhat transparent and for a lot of the other values to be coming through it. Come back down again. Again, I want you to notice how much I'm using that missed the boat there, but no watch, no panicking, nothing like that. Nothing that can't be handled. I put that shadow on there a little bit too. I put it a little bit too high up, so we'll just do that. And it should have come right off the base of this, and come back. So we just changed it, and we'll wash some more color over that in a little bit. Now this is maybe drawing a little uneven, so with the gouache you have a little bit more time to do something like this. Okay. I think we've got that established correctly now. Okay, now, whether it really was this way or not, it looks like the inside part of this window was a little darker blue. So we're going to take some of our other colors and we want to make it feel like it's in a shadow. So we'll come back up with this now. Take that number 4 brush. So you can just do this like a sign painter. I know you've heard me say that before, probably wonder what I mean. The sign painter will be the one, is really the one that taught me how to use that flat brush. My cousin specifically wound it off the cable. And we'll bring this across like this. Just the right brush, just the right situation, and do it exactly what you want it to do. Now we're going to come down like this. Of course, it's going to be a little lighter in this lower section. Just go right in there. just bring this right around. We'll fill this in. Too much on that. Bring it straight across and let it all connect together. Okay. Now while that's drying, I want to use the same darker color with the blue in it. This time we're going to mix a little white with it. I want it too light, but I want that blue-gray to come through very clearly. Okay, now we're going to mix now. I'm going to do this. I know some of you think right away, man, I'll never do that. My hands shake so much. This is scary stuff. My hand might not be shaking, but my knees are. I guarantee you that much right now. This is not easy stuff to do, man. You just got to jump in there and do it. Okay, now we've got two more panes to put in like this. And so we'll do one of them like this. And one of them like this. Okay, now for our purposes, that's going to be perfect. Now there'll be places where some of it, I would say that we overshot the mark. So it's real easy to take our black and come back in now and just hit that sucker like that. And then if you really want to get a little fancy, tone some of it down a little bit more. You can come up under here and put the shadows under that window. Your first tendency is to keep playing with it. We're not going to do it. Let's lift this up a little bit again. Now, here's another one of those situations where I should have used a little bit more blue on it. So we'll just come over here and we'll just take a little plain blue paint. No big deal. And don't be afraid of it, say. We'll do the same thing here. Gotta overcome the fear. Just a piece of pepper. That's toning it down. It's giving us that little grayish effect that works so well. Okay. Now there's a casing, looks like on here, that should have come out quite a bit further. I knew there was something in there I was missing. So you know what? It's the way it goes. Alright. Now we want to get that ultramarine blue Maybe a little crimson with that burnt sienna and that black. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to pull this down in a way that it allows that little bit of white section at the top. And if we lose the white, let's go back and put it back in again. Now I'm not going to give much of an eave. Not as much as I did on that other one. I had overshot the mark on that one a little bit, if you didn't know it. Now, what I'm going to do here, put it a little bit lighter. So that it looks like there's an eave or something up underneath there. I said 100 years from now, who's going to know the difference on that? Okay, now I'm going to start making what I'm doing here a little bit thicker than I do on this side. Now this is just a little trick you learn as an illustrator, just to trick the eye into seeing really a little bit more than what's actually there. So we're going to do that and that. Now, so I can already tell that this is maybe going to be a little bit too light, so that's okay. Much better than what we were dealing with before. Okay, now that's one that should have drawn a little bit better or understood a little bit better, but that's alright. I thought I might put a little shade under here anyhow, which will help it out a little bit. Now, I've decided that instead of leaving that white up there, now that I have everything else so clear, it's drawing too much attention. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. Some of that really dark stuff. Just little markings underneath that I see. Okay, now I already know it's going to be a little bit too bright. I want to be careful here. So I have a little something here that I can show up a little bit better on this, maybe even than I could have on the other one. And that is that there's a lot of dry brush up here that I can put in because of the paint peeling. So this will break it up a little bit. I might just put a little brown in there too, just to make it not so foreign with that burnt sienna. That's going to gray it down a little bit, as well as utilize some of the same colors. We'll come over here. And we're going to put a little bit more of the dry brush. Not so much though that we're going to lose it, see? Hopefully. Okay. Let's leave that. Tone it down a little bit. Now, I think before I do anything else, so I'll know exactly where I stand. Take that number 4 brush, I'm going to mix that blue. The burnt sienna. Alizarin crimson. A little bit of the black. Now I know that right up against here, I really want this to be a lot darker. Around the front. I'll do the same thing. Okay, now let's rough that roof up a little bit. We pretty much know what to do on that. Be careful now that I don't lose it, see? Let's just get some of this up. Now remember, this is where our perspective begins to float out here. I think this is going to be a lot easier to do in the color. We get our basic effect that we want in here with the corrugation. See, with this, I'm able to depend a little bit more on my linear pattern, meaning the lines coming down, because with the black and white I couldn't get that to come out clearly. I like what I wound up with in the end. I'm going to actually diffuse these a lot. I'm getting a little severe on that perspective, so I want to slow it down now. And I'm just going to start letting it go out gradually. but not a lot. Turn it back around this way now. Right now it starting to look very monotonous. We'll take care of that in a second. Especially as I get over here to this side now, out of the darks. I'm going to start making these a little bit more brown and lightening them a little bit. Start straightening them out. So pretty soon they're just going to all be straight. Now that little bit of extra brown is taking some of the harshness out of this. Okay. Oh, we want the blue, the brown, and the black. Let's put it in. Let's start putting in some of this really defined tin part here. Okay, now we want to get that blue, that black, and that brown pretty strong again. We just about finished this baby. And I'm going to try to carefully do our corrugation where we get the shadow to do just what we wanted to do right at the right place. And if it's not at the right place, who cares and who could count? Okay, now. Got the resemblance of a facial board here. This goes here, and then here, and here. Right under these areas, let's go ahead and get this. A little bit darker for our purposes. And this is really where it's fun, especially if you can watch it on the screen. I don't have my Thursday night group help me out, so it's kind of a one-man operation here. And see, in terms of how much I need to break that up, now this is a kind of a major screw up, which I know I can't fix, but I'm just gonna add a little bit more onto the edges. Let the critics figure it out. Okay, now, I already know. One thing I need to do. A little bit of that white, some of that bluish grayish color I mixed a little while ago. Let's lighten it up. Okay. That looks a little bit more like it's part of the program now. And I could come in a little darker line like this, all the way down. That will settle it down a little bit. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna and some of this white. And I'm going to lift a little bit of that overhang out. Now, you tell me anybody's going to get up there and look at that and count those things. I doubt it. Now, as always, you have to wait till you finish. So let's go ahead and start putting a really dark area down here. Here's our brown, black, a lot of blue. alizarin crimson. Now with the paint, it's going to be a little bit easier to do this part, so I'm not going to do as much with the black. But everything has to be done before you can form your conclusion about any of this. Right here I'm going to go all the way across because it's a lot of this down at the bottom I'm going to make with my, let's see why I like to do it with my flat brush the right way. Okay. I'll leave a lot of the pure green down here. Now, a little bit of that white again now. A little bit of this lighter burnt sienna reddish color. And we're going to put some of this lighter stuff on here that we reserve the right to darken later. And we'll just start giving this a little bit of It's amazing, it's not a lot. But it'll as it darkens, it's going to blend in, and it's just going to give us a nice textural change. I did some of those lighter areas. I'm going to go back and we're going to put some of the darker areas in now. That's bugged me since I screwed it up. Okay, I think we're looking pretty close to where I want it to be. Now I'd like to take a little bit more of that brown and blue. It's a little bit too strong on the blue. Put a little bit of that cadmium red in there with it. Put some of this dry brush in here now. Make it not look so isolated. And then at the top, you want to make it a little stronger, like I did in my other study. Now again, that's getting a little strong. Maybe too strong, but I don't care. Felt like it needed it, and I like it. Now, we're going to go back up here. Get a little bit of our cadmium red, white. I don't want to make it too bright. Let's just texturize it a little bit. You don't need a lot. I think we're going to leave it. Okay, time for our green. I think we're going to just leave it at the top up there and just let the dice roll. I'm going to do something here. I may hate myself in the morning, but I feel like we need to tone this down just a little bit, even though it's light. I'll put a little dry brush on it just to age it a little bit. Just as it goes towards the bottom down there, so we're going to leave it. That's got some pretty strong contrast around it now. It'll hold its own. See, that made it look like I think it's more in keeping with the other part of it. Now, again, it's our foliage. It's going to tie it all together as far as I'm concerned. So let's begin. I'm going to come down here. A whole lot of these areas now we can do transparently. Maybe a little, well, let's just take it with the plain green for right now. It looks ferociously dark. It's going to dry lighter. We want the lights to be controlled by what we do. So we'll just bring them right on around. Now the first thing I'm going to do while that's still like that, this is a strong green, but Graham's greens really are powerful. So we're going to go best greens on the market. Get a little bit more of that ultramarine blue out. A little bit of black, because now remember we want to pick up real dark areas out here. Now we'll come in and we'll put that yellow with that green. And that's what you love about the squash. When you put it down, it's got staying power. See, that's moving up into an area where we want this to be lighter than this eventually. But then if you look at the photograph, you'll see now let's get something with a little bit of this yellow, whatever that is. Burnt sienna. Start getting a little bit more specific in here. Something to break it up. Now we want to come back maybe to a little bit more of this dark green. It's not quite dark enough, but we're going to make it darker in a second. Let's bring that up. It's got the blue and the brown, a little bit of the red again, and the green. We're not going to be shy. Break up just a little bit more now that we've got it like we want it. All right. Now, just like on the other picture, what's going to make it is the way we can mingle these middle tones with it. So let's go with a little bit more of this and this. No, we're the master. We're going to get to do whatever we want it to do now. Now, so we make this baby start singing now. Okay, now as we come around here, you notice some of this gets real light. And we're going to do the same thing. We're not going to sweat the details. Now I want to really get the yellow and the white. So in areas like this where I get too light, I'll show you how I handle that in a second, but I want this inside of this. Now I want to hit it with a few lights that you don't have any question as to what's going on. See how a lot of that dried and it's going. But we don't want that. We want to be gutsy with the lights, and we want to be gutsy with the darks. need them all, see? It's the only way it's going to look real. I'm not following any pattern. Just randomly putting this stuff in here. Because a lot of times you don't know what it's going to dry looking like, which is good and bad. So, and I think this is beginning to develop the kind of irregular pattern that I'd like it to have, and I'm just going to call that sucker finished. We'll lower this just a little bit. We're going to take that tape off in just a second. And of course that's like putting the mat on it. That's where the magic starts. Now, I noticed one thing I did on the other one, on the black and white, that I like a lot better. I came into this a lot further. Up this dead area here. And utilized it for my benefit. I'm going to do that again. Now, something I did with that little burnt sienna and yellow a little while ago that I like. So I'm going to really get me quite a bit of it. I just like adding that little bit of extra color to it. You see what I'm talking about on the screen. You see in an area like right here, you got very, very muddy. So we can take almost a plain green and just come back in now and give it the effect that we'd like it to have. Now, this is a little too much. Tone it down. I think we'll call it finished. Ready or not, here we come. That's it. We'll wait and let it dry just a little bit and we'll sign it. Hope you enjoyed it. Looking forward to the workshop. Now, as usual, always one last little thing I want to do. So I might as well get it out of my system and do it. I'll get that white again, just get some fresh white. A little bit of the burnt sienna, a little bit of the red. Well, I've covered that white up, if you remember. That was just too bright. So we're just going to give it a little bit more character. Okay, that is to abrupt. Even while it's wet, we'll just come back and do this. See, we don't want, just want a little bit of variety, but I don't want monotony. And it's easy to do, and it's easy to correct. And let posterity figure it out. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. We'll go ahead and call this concluded.